What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Last Week at Apple. I'm Sam, of course. This is the weekly show where we talk about everything that happened at Apple over the past week. This week, as I think we've had every week now since I started this, there's a good amount of stories. There's a good amount of stuff that happened. If you're listening to this on YouTube right now, there'll be a podcast version available very shortly. And if you're listening to this in audio form after I was live on YouTube, you can watch the whole thing with some video accompaniment on YouTube. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start this week out the same way that we started out the past 3 weeks with a new iOS 11.4.1 beta. Apple, I don't want to say they're dragging their feet with this because I'm sure that there's a lot more that goes into iOS beta development than I would think of. That being said, this is a very, very small update. There's only one change inside of passcode settings. I've made a number of videos on it, and it just doesn't seem like there's much happening with it, and Apple will probably be releasing this maybe this week, but probably next week is a much more likely date. It's just a small update. There's not a lot happening, and the general hype around iOS 11.4.1 is pretty much just non-existent because I have no interest in covering it anymore. It's like the smallest update ever, and I don't think that many people have an interest in updating their devices. It should be the very last update for iOS 11 that we ever see, so that part is very exciting because that means iOS 12 is just around the corner, and I'm so excited for iOS 12. I know a lot of you are crazy hyped for iOS 12, and rightfully so. There's a lot of really, really great features, which brings us to the next story. iOS 12 Beta 3 did come out this week. I was really proud of this shot, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube. I was really proud of how that turned out. iOS 12 Beta 3 came out to developers, and the second public beta was also released to public beta testers this week, which means that there's a lot of good changes here. As there are every week, there was some cool new activity GIFs and stickers inside of messages. I always have a hard time remembering all the changes off the top of my head just because Apple usually changes a lot over time or in each beta iteration. And with beta 3 for iOS 12, we got a lot of changes. We got a lot of stuff that was new. I also ran a speed test and saw that iOS 12 beta 3 is actually a little bit faster than iOS 12 beta 2, and iOS 12 beta 2 and beta 1 are faster than iOS 11.4. So when iOS 12 comes this fall, it's going to be a really, really, really great update. We also got some battery graph improvements. You can now see when you have low power mode enabled, all kinds of stuff. All the changes are over on my website, even some that I didn't cover in the video that were discovered after it went live on YouTube. So that's iOS 12 beta 3. iOS 12 just continually gets better. There were no changes in beta 3 that I wasn't a fan of. It just seems like Apple is slowly and gradually pushing iOS 12 in the right direction, as they usually do every year when the new version of iOS 11 is in testing. After iOS 12 beta 3 this week, I felt like it was time to cover some iPhone rumors per tradition, and there's a lot of good stuff happening. We're basically hearing, once again, the LCD iPhone is going to run about $700, which we're calling low cost or budget or cheap. 700 is actually not cheap though. It's just going to be lower cost than the second generation iPhone 10 and the iPhone 10 Plus, which I've now decided to call the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Plus. Those phones are going to be great. The higher end models are going to be fantastic. Apple's basically building upon what they did with the iPhone 10 and expanding on that for the higher end models, and then applying things like Face ID and a near bezel-less design to the new LCD $700 model that should be coming later this year. All new models we're hearing, the big news, I want to say it was this week, is that they're all launching in September. But we got some even bigger news after this. We'll jump to that in just a second. I almost forgot to mention though, we're hearing that I think the iPhone 10 second gen and the iPhone 10 Plus are going to have two physical SIMs inside them in China, and an eSIM and a physical SIM pretty much everywhere else in the world. So there's not going to be true dual SIM functionality in the US, but you will have an eSIM inside that could be registered with one carrier and a physical SIM that could be registered with another carrier. So how that's going to work is going to be really interesting. Apple actually has an eSIM in some of their iPads right now, and there's been a lot of really great feedback about that. But carriers, reportedly, the reason this is taking so long to happen, have been giving Apple a lot of trouble, a lot of resistance for this happening, just because making it really easy for customers to switch carriers on the go isn't advantageous to a company like Verizon, who wants to suck their customers dry of every last cent. because that's just how they are. I actually just switched to T-Mobile on a side note, and I'm so much happier. Verizon has just been very, very bad to me, and I made videos about it in the past, and I might make one or two more in the future. But T-Mobile's been great so far. Not sponsored, just wanted to throw that tidbit out. But eSIM functionality coming to the new iPhones in 2018, going to be really, really great. We're also hearing that the higher end iPhones, according to a leaked A12 Geekbench score, number one, will be more than 10% powerful than they were in 2017. So the A12 is going to be at least 10% more powerful than the already insanely powerful A11 Bionic chip from 2017. And then we're hearing 4 gigabytes of RAM for the higher end model. So this is really exciting because 4 gigabytes of RAM is a big deal. Apple has never put 4 gigabytes of RAM, I don't think, in an iOS device to my knowledge, but it might be inside of the new iPad Pros, so don't quote me. But for sure, the first time 4 gigabytes would ever be placed inside of a mobile phone. Right now, the iPhone 10 and I want to say the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus all have 3 gigabytes, while the LCD model will probably still have 3 gigabytes in 2018 of RAM. The higher end iPhone 10 Plus, second generation iPhone 10 will have 4 gigabytes of RAM, which will be a lot. Combine that with Apple's already great RAM management, and the RAM management on the next generation iPhones are going to be really great. So that's that iPhone news. What I think has been most exciting, based on the view count of this video, what I think you all think is more exciting as well, colors coming to the LCD iPhone. This one's pretty big. Instagram post I posted about this got like a ridiculous amount of likes in comparison to anything else I've ever posted. People want colors on the iPhone. Apple probably did some market research into that, and for the LCD model, we're hearing 5 colors will be available on launch. Red, we don't know if it's going to be product red, could just be a normal red, but it's going to be red of some sort on launch, I assume. It would be in partnership with product red. You're going to have blue, orange, space gray or black, and then white or silver. That's pretty big, because Apple hasn't really messed with vibrant iPhone colors since the lower cost iPhone 5C. I want to say that came out in 2013 alongside the iPhone 5S. And that phone was not super well received. I think it was great at the time, but in a couple of years, I remembered like anyone that I saw using the iPhone 5C just generally wasn't happy with it because it was released with outdated specs on day one, and it just wasn't that great. Apple is fixing that this year with the new LCD models. In addition to just having great colors, the specs on the inside are still going to be equal to the second generation iPhone 10 and the iPhone 10 Plus. Now the camera probably won't be as good. The screen being LCD versus OLED clearly isn't going to be as good, but that's because it's going to be less expensive. What is great is that the internal processor, the A12, should be used across the board this year, which means that if you buy the lower cost iPhone this year, the performance is still going to hold up for 4 or 5 or 6 years after you purchase it, which is a huge win for consumers. It's not going to be like one of the old iPhone chips where it works really great for a year, and after 2 years, it starts really slowing down. Now that we've hit the A11 Bionic, now that we're going to hit the 10% faster A12 chip, it's just going to be absolutely absurd as to how much power we're having in the palm of our hands, rivaling some laptops and maybe even some desktops on the market. So I think that's a really big deal. But colors coming to the iPhone, I'm really excited for. I really look forward to orange. I mocked it up, and that was my favorite thing. And I'm really excited for this. I don't usually get excited about iPhone colors. I said that in the video I made on it, but gosh, there's just something about the way orange and blue look that I concepted that I just want to buy. I want to get my hands on, especially if they are going to be made with a glass back. Last story of the week was just on Friday, the Shortcuts app. Shortcuts app in iOS 12 did not come with the original iOS 12 beta, but they gave developers early access in the past week. I tweeted about this earlier today, but if you're someone who's not a registered developer who wants a code, unfortunately, YouTubers, myself, and anyone else on the internet except Apple can't give you a code. You have to go to the official Apple developer download portal. You have to be a registered developer to get there and to get access to downloads. And then once you're there, you can request access, and Apple might give you access to it. They don't have to. I requested and I got it about a day after I did, but some people got it earlier than me, and I'm sure some people got it later or after me. So unfortunately, I can't give you all access to this, although I would love to. Like, if I could give you access, I totally would. I just can't right now. The design, though, is really great. I love all the colors. I was really proud of the thumbnail I made for this just because it's really easy when there's a ton of colors already. And it's basically just the workflow app that Apple purchased from Workflow maybe a year ago now, a few months back. And all that functionality is there in addition to more system-level integration, which is great. And the biggest thing here is integration with Siri. You can now remap any action to any Siri phrase, or nearly any action to any Siri phrase. So if you wanted to say, Siri, why is the wall gray? That could potentially like pull up a painting app, or that could make a phone call. Like, you can assign any phrase whatsoever to Siri, which is a pretty big deal. And while it makes Siri good, it's sort of a pretty hard placeholder for the platform not being in a great spot. Like, this is, I guess, the best thing that Apple could have done at this point. At the same time, I just want Siri to get better. I just want Alexa and Google Assistant and Siri to be equal knowledge and context-wise, when clearly Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant fighting neck and neck, and then Siri's sort of there. And these workflow things are going to be fantastic. They're going to help Siri without question. I just don't think they're the end solution or end result. And I really hope that Apple continues to work on the Siri platform going forward, because right now it's in a pretty bad spot. I can't use Siri for anything outside of setting reminders, and even sometimes the Hey Siri detection doesn't work that well for me. Sorry for all the devices that I just set off for you. But Hey Siri, or Siri functionality in general with iOS 12, is going to be getting better with the Shortcuts app, and hopefully Apple opens it up to more people, public beta testers, in the very near future. That was all the Apple news for this week. It's really funny. Whenever I want my Siri's going off, whenever I don't want Siri to go off, instant recognition for Hey and then Siri. Whenever I don't want it to happen, instantly. But whenever I want it to happen, the phone's an inch away from my face, my HomePod in the room 30 yards away will go off, which is absolutely incredible. So let me check out chat now. That was the main portion of the show. As always, hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you had some fun. Let me know what questions you guys have about news this week, or just in general. Will Apple implement the touch bar on the Magic Keyboard? I almost said I hope, but at the same time, I don't use the touch bar at all. I also don't know anybody that loves the touch bar. When I first saw it, I was blown away. I got really hyped about it, and I thought it was going to totally change the way you use the MacBook. That wasn't the case. My MacBook is right here, and for me, it's more of an inconvenience than a convenience. Like, if Apple sold a model for $50 less, for $100 less without the touch bar, and that was the only different feature, I would definitely buy the model without the touch bar if I could. I saw Brandon Havard made a really great video on the iMac Pro today where he talks about the MacBook Pro, and I've had the same experience. Like, the software on the MacBook and the hardware is just not in a great spot right now. Apple really needs to upgrade the CPU and GPU so it's better, and the touch bar is weird. The iMac Pro behind me just feels light years better, but it's also twice as expensive, although I would say this is like 4 to 8 times better than the MacBook Pro for twice the price, instead of just twice as good. So MacBook Pro, the touch bar coming to the Magic Keyboard, I don't know if that's going to happen. I kind of hope it doesn't, but it'd be a fun video if it did. I'm sure some people could get excited about it. Do you have a high expectation of the new MacBook Pro? Yeah, I think Apple has to pull something good. Dave Lee from Dave 2D made a video about Apple's hardware the other day, and there's just so many creatives and professionals right now that are really fed up with Apple's hardware, because you either have to pay a ridiculous amount to get the iMac Pro, which is what a lot of people ended up doing, so Apple wins and we're mostly happy, or there's just outdated hardware everywhere else below the iMac Pro that I don't think is worth it for professionals right now. For the average user, you're not going to really notice the performance with the MacBook Pro. Like, you probably wouldn't notice just browsing the web that it's in a bad spot. But for video editing, even for streaming, like, my MacBook definitely has a hard time keeping up sometimes. So hopefully new MacBook Pro is fantastic this year. Do you think people will buy the iPhone 9? I mean, it has iPhone on it, so definitely. I couldn't imagine people ever not buying something that said iPhone on it just because it's so hyped. How much do you think the cheapest iPhone will cost? This year, I think the cheapest iPhone will cost probably $649 or $699 because that's what the rumors suggest for the LCD model. iPhone SE2 was supposed to happen. That would have likely been around $500, $400, $450, but that has now been reportedly canceled. So cheapest iPhone is probably going to be $700 United States dollars, which is still a lot of money for a quote-unquote cheap smartphone. Any news on the iOS 11.4 and iOS 12 jailbreak? I know iOS 11.3.1 just got jailbroken like 2 days ago. iTweaks has been making some really good videos on that, but I'm very hands-off, and I've stepped away from the jailbreak scene now. It's definitely like what built my channel a lot of the way because I talked about jailbreaking a lot. But I had issues with it, boot loops, not that you will, but I had a negative experience jailbreaking like iOS 9 or iOS 8, and I just decided to step away. It wasn't worth it anymore for me, and iOS has just got so many features now that I didn't feel like I really needed to jailbreak. Will you get all 3 phones to review this year? Great question. I'm moving into an apartment where I go to school, so I'm gonna have a fun thing called rent now. And rent is really cool because instead of just paying for something once, it's a subscription. So I get to pay to live somewhere every month, which is fair for the person's property that I'm living at. But it's gonna be a pretty sizable amount of my YouTube income, which is more or less the only income that I have right now. So hopefully I'll be able to buy all 3 new phones. I definitely want to buy all 3 new phones. And I'm sure I'm going to try to reach out to a sponsor at some point to sponsor my content on like the day that the new iPhones launch, just because that always helps out monetarily. But I'd love to get all 3. It's just that looking at the prices now, that would be like $2,700 without tax. So that'd be a lot of money to drop on 3 phones. We'll see. Any rumors about iOS 13? There's a lot already, which is weird. Home screen refresh is going to happen, so your home screen on iOS 13 going to look pretty much, hopefully entirely different than it looks in iOS 12. First time ever that the home screen will seriously be changed since iPhone OS 1. Going to be some big new iPad features, a revamped Files app on the iPad. I think some apps on iOS 13 are going to see a design refresh. Hopefully we just get a generalized UI and design refresh in iOS 13 because so many people are waiting for that, and so many people are very eager for that design refresh. Will widgets ever come to the iPhone? Oh, like on the home screen? I don't know. I feel like Apple's not really a widget company. It would be kind of cool though if you could take widgets from the widget view now and put them on your home screen, sort of in between icons. That would be a feature that Android has had, I think, since the beginning or first versions of Android. So that'd be really cool to finally get that on the iPhone. But I don't know. Apple's not a super widgety company, I would say. I don't think they're super into putting widgets on the iPhone. Maybe they will, though. It took them a long... I think iOS 8 was the first time we ever got widgets, 8 versions into iOS, basically. When does Apple give a presentation about the new phones and the watch? It's probably going to be in September of this year. I think sources indicate that all 3 of the new phones are going to be launching in September. We have heard that for sure. And the conference will almost certainly be middle September. That's usually when Apple does it. It'll be September 10th to the 25th, 20th. I think that's when Apple will hold the event, just because they always hold it in September. It's sort of become known that if you want to buy an iPhone during the summer, it might be smarter to wait until September, just because you know for sure new iPhones will be coming at some point in the second half of 2018. 99 or 100% of the time, that means September. Any rumors about dark mode coming to iOS 12? I also tweeted about this yesterday because there's so many dark mode elements on the home screen. Like if I turn on dark mode really fast, I'll show you. Let me swipe off some of these notifications. Yeah, this is all safe. So if you look at this, you've got a little dark UI right there, and it looks so nice. Like if all the notifications could look like this, super, super, super exciting. But that's not the case. Only some notifications look like that. If you start playing music, oh, I don't want to hit play because I don't want this to get copyright striked, or copy striked, as PewDiePie would say. But dark mode, it feels like it should be coming. Like all the elements are here. All the eggs in the basket are here. They just need to be cooked up. If that's an acronym that anyone should use, I think that's it. Dark mode hopefully coming to iOS 12. If it comes at all, I don't think it's going to be an iOS 12.0. I don't think it would be 12.1 or 12.2. It feels like it'd be a very 12.3 update, if not waiting till iOS 13, because the crowd at WWDC lost their minds over dark mode on the Mac, which some people have wanted, but I think every human born, like the near 8 billion people or 8 billion plus people on the planet, have seen an iPhone and been like, this is great, but what if it was dark? What if you could have a dark UI so it didn't burn your retinas out in the middle of the night? So hopefully coming. Apple knows. Like there's no question that they know we want this. I think it's just a matter of them wanting to give that to us or not. So hopefully we get it soon, because dark mode is definitely something that a lot of people want. Yeah, they should make a dark mode. I agree. What changes to the home screen do you expect? No idea. No idea whatsoever. Mark Gurman from Bloomberg has done a lot of really great reporting on it. He just says the CarPlay home screen is going to change and iPad is going to get pretty radical, but that the iPhone will also see some revamp and some redesign. But there's no detail whatsoever. I'm sure that concepts will take a stab at how it should look, but no one has any actual idea how the new home screens are going to look. When will the name change come? I've been working on this forever. I still think I'm like torn between two names, and they're so similar, but like every day I'll go back from one name to the other name, and they're so similar to iUpdate OS, but I just want something different. I want something fresh, and the new branding to me looks really fresh. The number one holdup I would say right now is that I'm trying to get some new merch ready to launch alongside. And one new piece of merch is totally done. It's a polo. It looks really, really good. It's super minimal, and I love it. I'm gonna order it soon. The other shirt it's a work in progress because I'm not totally happy with how it looks yet, but that's basically the number one thing that's making me wait on changing the name. And also I just got verified on YouTube, so there's a little check mark next to my name on desktop, and when I change my name to what I'm going to change it to, I'll have to reapply for verification. So I'm enjoying the check mark while it lasts before YouTube has to reapprove me for verification later. Are you going to the event? Haha, I wish. Apple, I don't think, knows who I am, nor do they care. But then again, a guy named Daily Tech, who makes some really cool Apple videos with like 106,000 subscribers, got invited by Apple as press at WWDC, along the likes of, I think, iJustine. I'm not sure if Marquez attended, but Jonathan Morrison was there. Your Average Consumer, I want to say, was invited to WWDC, and I think Sarah Dici. But like, 106,000 is not that many. Like it's a lot of subscribers, but not a lot in comparisons to somebody like MKBHD or Everything Apple Pro. And I don't think that they would invite me ever. I've definitely reached out in the past and been like, hey, I like Apple products. I'd love to come to the event and generate hundreds of thousands of free impressions for your company just for letting me be there. But they leave the likes of that to Time and 9to5Mac and Mac, like all the big names, just because the impressions are going to get out there either way. I basically at this point just need a contact at Apple, and I don't have a contact at Apple, so they don't really know who I am, and I don't think they really care about who I am either. What case do you recommend? Oh, have I got the case for you? Not even sponsored, but a company that I have worked with in the past and that I absolutely love. No way this focuses, but I use this case in my videos. I get so many questions about this case, so many questions about what case I use on my iPhone 10. Rhino Shield I think it's called, no, Solid Suit is the new ones with the like rubber backs that came out. This is called Crash Guard, the Rhino Shield Crash Guard, or the Rhino Shield mod case for iPhone 10. I have dropped my phone so many times. I've dropped it so many times. Screen perfectly intact still, perfectly intact, totally safe on this phone. And I thank my Rhino Shield case. The link is in every description of my normal videos. So if you just scroll down in the description of like pretty much any video other than a live stream that I post, you can see an affiliate link to it. So you help support me by clicking on those affiliate links, and you can get a case. I want to say this is about $25, but I promise you the extra $5 is worth it. Such a good case, really great company. They make really good products, and I love promoting their stuff whenever I can, just because it's a brand, and all brands that I promote or that I'm sponsored by, I believe in and I love. But like Rhino Shield it holds a special place in my heart because they're a really great company. Which iPhone will be your daily driver? Right now, my daily driver is the iPhone 10. It's been that way since November when the iPhone 10 came out. I switched to the red iPhone for a little bit when I was having some cellular issues with this, but I got the cellular issues fixed, and now I have the iPhone 10. And then next year with the 3 new iPhones, depending on how good the LCD model is, I like the look of LCD screens on iPhones. I would say equally to how I like OLED. So I'm either going to be using a second generation iPhone 10 or the iPhone 9 that's coming this year. I'm not sure just yet. I'll have to use them. I'll have to test them out. But for sure, I want to try the new LCD model this year just because it's so interesting that Apple's releasing this really good phone for a lower price. See a super chat from iHunter. Thank you so much. Will shortcuts be available for public beta soon? Also sub to iHunter. Check out iHunter's channel. I don't know if shortcuts will be available for public beta testers soon. I would assume so, but right now it's just limited to registered developers through Apple. And what a registered developer means is technically with my account, I could develop and distribute iPhone and iPad and Mac applications and watch applications on the App Store. I'm not a coder though, so I just pay the $100 a year membership fee to get early access to betas and things like the Shortcuts app. So anybody in the world, any of you watching right now, can go over to like developer.apple.com, sign up for an account. It's $100 a year, but if you're super into betas, if you're really into testing out pre-release software, like everything from the smallest updates such as iOS 11.4.1 to iOS 12 beta 4, which will be coming out in about a week or maybe sooner depending on when Apple releases it. You can test the big releases, the small releases, $100 a year just to get safe and secure access to like the developer profiles and special things that you can't get through a profile like the Shortcuts app, which is cool. But it should be coming to public beta testers at some time in the future. Is the iPhone 10 worth it, or should I get the iPhone 7? It depends what you're looking for. If you want a really great camera, if you want the best battery life on an iPhone, if those two things are really important for you, definitely, and I should say a much larger 5.8-inch screen, definitely go forward and buy the iPhone 10. But honestly, we're in July. If you can hold out through all of July and all of August, the new iPhones are coming in September, and you'll be able to get a better phone than the iPhone 10 for $100 cheaper than the iPhone 10 is right now. So if you're looking for a new phone right now, I would definitely recommend waiting as long as you can to upgrade. Like if you have an old phone, I understand you may have to upgrade, and the iPhone 10, in my opinion, is the best iPhone or phone in general you can get right now. But if you can wait, like new iPhones are coming soon. So you'll get a much better phone in like 2.5 months if you can just be patient and wait it out. And I think you'll be a lot happier with your purchase in the long run, even though in the short term, it might be just nice to get the iPhone 10. What will be the cost of the iPhone 10 when the iPhones come out? If it gets less by $100, as usual, it'll be equal to the iPhone 11, which is not reasonable. So this goes back to a rumor we heard a long time ago that Apple's going to discontinue the iPhone 10 rather than just making it $100 cheaper. And I'm sure like maybe carriers or third-party resellers like Best Buy will discount this model by around $100, maybe $150. But Apple will likely discontinue this phone so that you are more incentivized to buy like the new LCD model or the second gen iPhone 10 or the iPhone 10 Plus. So that's basically their plan. They're set to discontinue this. We haven't heard a follow-up on that in a long time because that's a pretty old rumor now. But we did hear at one point that Apple would be discontinuing the iPhone 10 just because it could possibly cannibalize the sales of the newer models if they left this around. When will the new MacBook Pro be announced? Do you think the battery life and RAM will increase? It's probably going to come out in September or October. At this point, I don't know if I even have hope that Apple is going to put 32 gigabytes of RAM in a device called the MacBook Pro because the leaked Geekbench scores that 95 Mac found showed only 16 gigabytes in the new MacBook Pro, which is so disappointing for a Pro device to be capped at only 6. Like, there's so many conversations that I want to have with Apple's Pro team, and I'm on like the very low end of the Pros. Like, the videos I do aren't that edit intense. They don't need that much power, but there's no way you could edit like a feature-length film on the MacBook Pro without losing your mind. There's absolutely no way. There's just not enough power there. Even if you boost everything up to the max, it's just really not that great. From GP16524, thank you so much for that donation. I really appreciate it. What case do you use on your iPhone? Is it good? I actually just talked about this, but I'm so happy to talk about it again. It is a Rhino Shield case. If you go back to any other video that I've ever posted, like a live stream, it is the Rhino Shield Crash Guard case. You can search for it on Amazon. If you wanted to help support the channel even further, you can use my affiliate link, which is in the description of all of my regular videos. But Rhino Shield also told me that they're going to be running some pretty insane sales on Amazon Prime Day, and I might make like a deals video in the future. So if you want to wait, this case that's I think 25 or 30 now will probably go down even more than that on Amazon Prime Day if you are a Prime subscriber. But Rhino Shield, I've worked with them on 2 or 3 sponsored videos in the past. Really great company, just like genuinely good people that work there that really care about the products that they make. And Rhino Shield, they're amazing. Like, I've dropped my phone so much, so much I've dropped my phone, and Rhino Shield's always been there to have my back when I mess up. They're really great at making good products and really quality cases for pretty cheap. I still see a lot of people walking around with they're the super bulky cases. Not Rhino Shield. I'm thinking of the super bulky cases that like everyone had back in, like Life Proof, those that are more bulky. Those drive me insane, and I just do not enjoy thick and bulky cases. So I mean, look, this is video. It can't lie. This is the thickness of the iPhone 10 with a case, like a few millimeters thicker, but not to the point where the protection isn't worth it. Otterbox, that's the name. Thank you. Otterbox is, oh gosh, I hate them so much because hate's a strong word. I strongly dislike them. They've like, the company's never done anything against me, and I think the product themselves are pretty good. Like, I think Otterboxes for what they are is like super big bulky protection is great. I feel like I get the exact same protection from my Rhino Shield that's this thick that other companies like Otterbox advertise. I'd buy the iPie. Would you? I don't know what the iPie is, but it sounds delicious. It sounds really, really great. What iPhone do you think will be discounted when the new iPhones come out? I mean, I'm sure the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 8 Plus will go down in price by $100 each, and those are still really great phones. I focused a lot about like the iPhone 10 in this video, but I also have a Rhino Shield on my iPhone 8, and I love it there. And I love the iPhone 8 in general. Like, the iPhone 8's a really great phone, but when I have the option for an edge-to-edge, nearly bezel-less display, I'm gonna pick that every time just because I like the way the screen looks, infinitely more than a boxed LCD display. And that's just my personal preference. I like the edge-to-edge a lot better. Do you agree that comparatively, ooh, this looks like a good question. Do you agree that comparatively, ever since Jobs passed away, the way Apple has handled its quality and innovation progress has slowed down immensely? I am still an Apple lover, but I do miss Jobs. Yeah, same here. I miss Steve Jobs as well. He definitely was a visionary. Apparently kind of a mean guy to work with. Very, very strong-willed, not super flexible in his ideologies or beliefs and how he worked with other people. But aside from his character as a person, he made Apple. Like, he created this company that people love, that people hate, so like just, I don't know, just an incredible company he created. Like, that's why I love Apple. It was always so exciting to see a Steve Jobs keynote growing up. He was an incredibly talented public speaker. Since Steve Jobs has left, yeah, it seems like the quality started slipping, and maybe that's just because Tim Cook was never a CEO before he was a CEO. And in recent history, he seems like he's been doing a really great job leading the company from a humanitarian standpoint, from an economical standpoint. Apple's stock just keeps going higher. I think for a CEO, he's doing exactly what a CEO should do. It also, though, feels like he's running this company, Apple, that used to feel very magical and exciting, as more of a business. And it feels like more so than ever before, decisions that Apple is making are coming from this will make stockholders happy rather than this is going to make the most people happy or be the most consumer-friendly option. So I miss Steve Jobs, but he's gone, and this is the Apple we know now, so there's no reason to dwell on the past, right? What could the new iPad Pro have other than a new design or than Face ID? I really hope it just has the A12 processor or A12X. Other than Face ID, I don't know. Like Apple Pencil 2 support or just a second generation Apple Pencil would be great, because Apple hasn't updated the Apple Pencil since the original Apple Pencil came out, which is definitely a little bit weird. And I hope that Apple updates the Pencil soon, because it's been a very long time. They announced a new iPad, the iPad 6th generation, like centered around students this year, because that has Apple Pencil support now, and there's still no new Apple Pencil. Like, it feels weird that Apple's still so heavily promoting a product that's relatively old now and that hasn't gained that much new functionality, if any new functionality, over time. So I would love to see Apple Pencil 2 support on the iPad Pro. Also an OLED display, that would be incredible. Rumor has it that there's no way it's going to be an OLED display this year, just because producing OLED is really hard and really time consuming, especially if companies like Foxconn are trying to churn out panels that are 12.9 inches instead of 5.8 or 6.5 inches. So OLED would be a game changer for the iPad, really great. But I'd also love to see OLED on things like the iMac Pro and the MacBook Pro. But at the same time, Apple's LCD screens are also so good that I can't really complain, or I can't really be disappointed at LCD, because it doesn't look bad really at all, except when it comes to black levels. Will there be new iMacs since iMac Pro was out not long ago? I think that there will be new iMacs. I think that Apple will continue to update the iMac line, but in Dave 2D's video that he made yesterday, he made a really good point that upgrading to, I think, 8th generation Intel chips will make the performance of a $2,500 iMac really close to a $5,000 iMac Pro. So the incentive to buy the iMac Pro would be a lot smaller, and then the smaller iMacs, or cheaper iMacs I should say, could cannibalize the sales of the iMac Pro. So I don't know what Apple needs to do, but they definitely need to put latest generation Intel processors in their laptops and in the iMacs and in the Mac Mini. Like, where is the new Mac Mini? My dad alone has been waiting to buy a new Mac Mini for like 3 years now, because Apple hasn't updated it since, I think, 2014. And Tim Cook said in an email, he didn't say it was dead, he said they were working on it, but a lot of people are just getting really impatient. And I tried to use my dad's like 2013 Mac Mini, and it was just real bad, because it has a hard drive in it instead of solid state, really slow, like under, I think, 3 gigahertz processor, only dual core, just really slow for 2018. So I'm hoping that Apple releases a new Mac Mini soon. No jailbreak talk. I touched on that a little bit earlier, just not super into the jailbreak scene anymore. Gosh, a lot of people want me to talk about jailbreak. I mean, I can. I'm not super into jailbreaking anymore. I saw the new jailbreak for iOS, I think 11.3.1 came out. But I've stepped away from the jailbreak community. I still think that if you're into jailbreaking, that's really cool. But I've stepped away from it myself and just decided to focus more on iPhone rumors and Apple and iOS on my YouTube channel here. But if something happened with jailbreaking, I'm not saying I would never get back into it again. It's just I don't really have a use for it in my life right now. Apple Watch Series 4 predictions. We're hearing it's going to have a bigger screen. As you can see right now, I'm not actually sure if you can see it. It's upside down. But I've been having issues repairing my watch because when I switched to T-Mobile, I had to change the eSIM from being linked to Verizon to T-Mobile. So it's just kind of in this weird state now, and I've tried like 3 times to pair it. But no matter what I've tried, it gets stuck on the passcode screen and fails every time. So I'm going to have to troubleshoot it and look into it a little bit more and maybe try to reset the phone and the watch together. But Apple Watch Series 4 is going to have, I think, a 15% larger screen, less bezel than it has now, which doesn't seem like a lot of bezel in the first place, but that's going to be really great. And then hopefully faster processor, faster Siri, everything that we got with the Apple Watch Series 3, but just turned up a notch. Do you think iOS 12 is a disappointment for Apple users? I don't think that it's a disappointment, but I do think that it's a small update, and I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be a great update. I think it's what we needed, even though it's not exactly what everyone, like, it's what people wanted. People also wanted more features. I wanted more features. But for the general populace, I think this is just going to make everybody really, really happy. And in the speed test video I did on June 4th or 5th when iOS 12 came out for developers, it got like a ridiculous amount of views in a couple days, just showing that iOS 12 already is faster than iOS 11, which is really great because a lot of people are tired of the bugs in iOS 11, tired of the bad performance. So I think Apple definitely made the right decision. Less features, better performance and stability with iOS 12. Have you seen the bug with the screen time crashing on iPhone 10? I haven't seen screen time working on my iPhone 10, if that's what you're referring to, but I think it's a cool feature right here. Like, it just doesn't really load right now, and I've tried to get it to load to show you my usage, but screen time seems to be a little bit glitchy in iOS 12 Beta 3, more so than it has been in a beta before. So that's probably good. One last question we'll do before we wrap up. Somebody asked about Apple routers like Airport Extreme, Airport Time Capsule. Someone's still on their old Time Capsule. I don't think new routers are coming. In fact, Apple's actually said that the Airport line more or less is delayed indefinitely. Like, they don't plan on updating it, and Apple actually recommends upgrading to a mesh Wi-Fi router. I have something called Eero in my house right now, but I'm also pretty sure that it's broken or that it's messing with my iMac because my iMac internet connectivity is really spotty, and I think it's the Eero's fault, which is my mesh Wi-Fi router system. So if you're looking for Wi-Fi routers that are mesh that are really great that aren't from Apple, I think the Eero is an okay option, but I also know there's something, I think by Linksys, called Orbi that has gotten some really, really great and really positive reviews. So on the Apple router side of things, Airport Express, Airport Extreme, Time Capsule, they're not planning to upgrade those anytime in the future, if at all. So that's all for this video. Anyway, that was Last Week at Apple. We call it LAWA, not to be confused with Jax Films' Yai or PewDiePie's Lowai, just LAWA, a little bit different, a little bit of a fun acronym. But once again, if you're listening to this in audio form on iTunes, the episode will be up very shortly. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you can watch on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you want to listen to this in your car, you can listen over on podcast. But that was Last Week at Apple. I've been Sam, and I will talk to you all in the next episode. See you guys later.